So I'm here with Coach John Parker, coach at Southern Minnesota State. Is that the right?
Southwest.
Southwest Minnesota. Sorry. And
Yeah.
I actually know John from being a recruiter for Uni Experts. So and he is in his new role starting this past spring semester. How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing well. I'm shut in my apartment in Marshall, Minnesota.
How's the weather there?
It's actually nice. Yesterday was 70 degrees. Today is around mid 60s, I think. I don't know. I haven't been outside yet.
I thought people played hockey outside in Minnesota all the way through the summer.
They do. We have an ice rink across the street. So I'll walk across the street, the highway to watch some games. I think they do. I don't know. I don't know what they do in the summer. I only got here in January, so.
You got to up your hockey knowledge if you're going to live in Minnesota. Come on, man.
I like hockey a lot. I watched high school hockey, and it's a pretty violent sport. I mean, I wish tennis was kind of like that a little bit, change the rules of tennis.
Tennis needs some violence for sure.
Changeovers, you can elbow and check with your tennis racket. That would be awesome.
I think college tennis is already getting too close to that point anyways. There'd be too many fights.
Yeah. It'd be great. It would definitely increase the attendance.
Hey, we're all for that. I know, can you go ahead and just kind of give us a little bit about your tennis background? I know you coached at another college before, and kind of, how did you get into your current role, and what did you do previously?
I played at Northeastern State University in Tahlequah, Oklahoma many, many years ago when Northeastern was an NAIA program. And then I got into when I graduated college, I went straight into high school teaching and coaching and did that for about 23 years. And then coached a couple years at Northeastern. My daughter was at that school, so I coached her. So I uniquely, I coached her all through high school and through college. And then I took some time off when she graduated, moved around a little bit, moved to South Florida, went to Southern California, and then got the phone call from our athletic director here at Southwest Minnesota State to come take over the program in the middle of January. So day one. Yeah. So that was tough. We only had 3 girls on our roster. I recruited 2 walk-ons, one from the basketball team, and I managed to talk one girl coming back out for tennis because she had quit just because of the coaching changes and stuff. So we had 5 to 6 girls during most of the season this year. We actually won 1 match in our conference. Yeah. And we and that walk-on basketball player taught her enough tennis to she actually won 2 matches.
5 singles?
Yeah, she played 5 singles. Absolutely.
Okay.
5 singles and 3 doubles. So that was her 2 matches. Just never played before.
Well, at least a basketball player, pretty natural athlete. So you can at least, if you get them, if they move well and teach them some form, they can at least compete down at the bottom, maybe.
Exactly. So she's competitive, right? This is a funny story. So she's extremely competitive. And she just, obviously hates to lose. She's not used to it. And she goes, Coach, this is a changeover. She says, if I hit the ball as high as I possibly can, it really bothers my opponent. And she doesn't like it. And I go, yeah. I said, just get that ball to hit, everything's indoor, right? We're indoor tennis. So you sometimes you can lose it up there in the ceiling, depth wise. And yeah, she won a match. It was ugly. It took a long time for her. She is hitting balls like this.
Yep.
Just
the pancake.
Whatever grip works. I don't care. No, I tried, I tried to say, if you hit the ball waist level, low to high, it works. She goes, Coach, that doesn't always work. So I just like to, she'll stand in the middle of the court, and dink and dunk and hit ball. Yeah, it was, so you can win it. Yeah. Almost anybody can win at Division II. I don't mean to say it like that, but
Speak to some of the challenges. I mean, I know you talked about you got a roster with only 3 girls whenever you took over in January, but what are some of the other challenges of taking over a college tennis team mid-year? Because, I mean, it's a big difference when you're working with a team for at least the entire fall and, you kind of know each other and trust each other. But
Mhm.
January, you started your matches probably, early or mid-February. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so you were with the girls. They knew you as a person for 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Can you speak to some of the challenges there?
It's, I mean, thankfully, the girls that were there they're pretty chill, and they knew the situation coming in, and so they are very welcoming. Didn't they? There weren't any challenges with the girls. I mean, if coaches would just, I don't know. I'm pretty easy to talk with people with youth. Being a high school, being in the classroom for so many years, and coaching other sports, it wasn't too hard to get to know the kids a little bit. And I wasn't trying to be over the top with practice and training. Let's get in the weight room and I'm the big sheriff in town kind of attitude. You kind of have to take it a little bit easy.
Got to ease your way into it.
Yeah. And you kind of have to listen to your players a little bit more than probably usual, because these kids kind of got to also understand that these kids have got, most of these kids that I had, well, they already had like 3 different coaches. So you just, I mean, thankfully it was college tennis. I mean, if it was like a high school program or something like that, there would have probably been a lot of dysfunction going on. Because those kids, high school level was just a little bit not as mature. But gosh, it's these kids. These kids were local. They're from around local high schools, so they're pretty chill. It wasn't very hard to transition, and it probably helped also that I had coached before college tennis wise, so they trusted me.
How long of a break did you take from coaching your previous school until this past year?
Really, not that long. I wasn't even interested in getting back into coaching, so I was literally on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the first time um, the athletic director at Southwest got a hold of me, and I just flat turned him down. Well, actually, I didn't quite turn him down. I said, look, and I did have some family issues going on, so I just told him I wasn't really interested just because of family. And so I moved to California because that's where my family lives. And then I was literally on the beach again in San Diego area. And someone else had called me from the university and said, look, we really need a coach. The guy we hired out of Texas, turned us down at the last minute. And I said, sure, I'll come. Don't have anything going on. So it was at the end of December and they flew me up there. And the administration was nice. The coaches are cool. And they said, look, we only have like 3 players on the roster right now. We need somebody with some experience to come in and, get it going. So that's kind of talked me into it. Plus the salaries is good and the benefits, So it really didn't take me long to get back into it.
Can you speak on a little bit about, the differences and your role at Uni Experts, as a recruiting agency versus, being back into the college tennis game, some things that I guess were different for you, being on one end and now being on the opposite end?
Yeah, that's like, I mean, I got hired at Uni Expert because when I was at Northeastern, I would go to their showcases in Germany and got to know, Roger Thiel and Sandy and them, and they brought me on board just because of my experience with college coaching and knowing other coaches. So really, it wasn't. It was kind of odd at first because I would get kids. They would give me kids to place in colleges, and that was kind of unusual because normally you're looking for those kids and
Right.
you have these lists of kids. So that was kind of unusual, and then you have to get to know these kids and basically sell them to other coaches, which wasn't too terribly different, just because it was easy talking. I mean, you also have to get to know some of the coaches as well, and kind of how they like to recruit and when they like to recruit, and when they're serious and when they're not serious, and whatnot. But it's all about building relationships. So it wasn't too difficult for me to speak to coaches. And you want to build relationships with other coaches, just because they trust you. When they trust you, then it's easy to place these kids. I don't know. I like doing the recruiting, but I was more of an advocate for the coaches, versus some recruiters, and you and I both run into them. And we're not going to drop any names, but it's like these recruiters won't let you talk to the players, so the coach can build a relationship, or the recruiter is out in front, negotiating the scholarship, basically negotiating money. Whereas when I was doing it with Expert, and I wasn't doing it for very long, I would take more of a back seat. Here, Alex, here's a kid. Talk to them. Just CC me on the emails or whatever. Keep me in the loop.
Right.
And I tried not to do a whole lot of the scholarship negotiating, with the coaches, just because I know from experience how you obtain money academically, athletically, from your foundation. It's so different from school to school. And who am I as a recruiter for Expert? Who am I to tell you how to do that? So I usually try as a recruiter to take the back seat, and then let the coach and the player build a relationship, which I think recruiters, they don't do that enough. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but I could think of one example. I don't really want to mention the guy's name, but I could never get a hold. I could never talk to that player, could never have that one-on-one conversation. And right off the bat, without even looking at a video, they're negotiating, talking about money, and I just like, sorry, man, it's not going to happen.
All the time, John. We run into the same problems.
It's pathetic, So I kind of like doing the college placement. It kind of kept me in the loop with talking to coaches and things. And I mean, I don't want to brag about Expert, but they kind of do it right. I mean, they don't kind of do it right, but they do it right, because all the placement specialists are very similar. They, like Sandy, he'll immediately give the contact information about the kid to the coach, and then let the player and the coach talk it out, and very, very rarely. I mean, I've dealt with Sandy before as a coach, and he just says, okay, here's their budget, here's their TOEFL score and their SAT, and good luck.
Right.
I hope it works. And that's how it should be, because I hate to say it, but I think recruiters are going to be just sort of I'm not going to be totally surprised when the NCAA comes down with a couple new rules about recruiters.
Definitely, we're running into some interesting times, and kind of running into that is when we're talking about, off the air beforehand, this coming fall, this coming whole year, of how budgets are going to drastically change. And I know you've spoken a little bit about that on Facebook. It's tough for players demanding full rides, given the current times we're in. And how do you see that being a challenge going forward for players not finding a home, or for coaches not being able to fill rosters?
I think the D3 model is the model we're going to all be using. That's my opinion, which simply means, hopefully international kids will be able to tap into academic scholarship, more. Like for instance, at our school, we don't give internationals any academic. Some schools can and can't. Of course, American players can get the academic along with the athletic. So I feel like the D3 model is going to be probably the thing that we're all going to be following. I cannot imagine, with the sports being canceled and if football gets pushed to the spring, I cannot imagine our budgets are going to stay the same. I can't, or the amount of money that we get to use for athletic scholarships is going to stay the same. There's no way. It's impossible. And so, how are we going to come up with money? It's going to be the foundation, your private donations and stuff, and it's going to be academic, and that's exactly how D3s do things, and most of those kids are Americans. I mean, not most, but a lot of them are. And so I think you're going to see a big push in American kids, because they can get the academic. And and the international kids are going to have a much bigger budget. The recruiting agents are going to have to be realistic with their clients and let them know that they're going to have a budget, pay to play, in other words. So, because I cannot imagine after all this that things are going to be the same budget wise for anybody. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I talked about this with another coach yesterday. I mean, you and I both know this, but, every girl that pops up pretty much that's above, like a 7 UTR is pretty much looking for a full ride. And,
7.
Something, but it's true, right? Or,
Yeah.
I see lower than that asking for full rides, like 6.5 UTR full ride. And it's like, you're telling me that you're starting out at a full ride and that's it? Or, so I think that's going to change. And I haven't been in the game long enough to really know when that became the trend. I know you've been in it a little longer and you've been in the recruiting, so maybe you have a little bit more insight than me. But to me, it's just crazy that any girl I know that there's a lot of money because of Title IX, and I know American, tennis participation, especially on the women's side, isn't very good. And women's participation in college tennis is much lower in general.
Right.
So I think it's created just the system to me is kind of crazy when you think about it. It's like you're telling me every female tennis player deserves a full ride, and the equivalence of a guy full ride is basically like $10K. So it's
Right.
kind of insane the difference in budget, understandable because of Title IX, but I can't see women wanting full rides or men wanting $10K or lower finding a place to go this year, unless you're really good and you find you're a little bit lucky, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I mean, I see girls 6.5 to 7 wanting full rides. In fact, I was on Facebook. Well, I'm on the recruiting Facebook page all the time.
I have to laugh at some of your comments, John. It usually they're thoughts other people have. It's just sometimes I see your comments and I'm like, yep, John's fired up today.
Yeah. I know sometimes I go, did I really just say that? Did I just say that out loud? I mean, but it's the truth. I mean, I think we coaches just need to, I don't know, stick to our guns or something and just, I don't know. I've never given I've given only one full scholarship in my time. And that
full
was
athletic, or was that a combination of athletic and academic?
Full athletic.
Yeah.
I was at Northeastern, and she had a legit 10.5 UTR. And the only reason why she wasn't Division I is because she was ineligible for Division I, right? And she was an Armstrong State kid. That's when the program closed. Armstrong State closed, right? And she found me through one of her other players, and I was shocked. And she said, yeah, I was on a full ride at Armstrong State. Well, of course, Armstrong State, they're fully funded. I said, I don't, and I said, I don't know yet. Let me talk to my compliance and, and I'll get back with you what I can do. But yeah, I gave her a full scholarship. She was the highest paid athlete at Northeastern, basically, more than anyone else. And they just had to have her. I mean, I had to have her. Well, she turned out to be the third ranked player in Division II college, Tatiana Stahl. And yeah, she's legit. But that was the only person that I gave a full scholarship to. Everyone else, I feel like you have to put a little skin in the game. You know, I feel like
Tough to offer a freshman a full ride. Maybe you earn that if you're really good or close to that, but it is kind of tough to like say, okay, you're coming in as a 17, 18-year-old kid with no college experience. And, you know, we really, maybe you're from a different country and we've seen you on video and results, but we don't really know how you're going to react to being in a foreign location, you know, and a new experience, you know, a lot of responsibility, a lot of competition, you know, how will you react to that? So, I think Coach Walters probably a couple months ago talked about this pretty extensively in the chat. Just, you know, it's something you should have to earn. You know, it's crazy.
I fully agree. I think if you give kids full scholarships, you know, they can get complacent, lazy, whatever. So that's why I like to say, I think every kid should have a little bit of a budget, a little skin in the game. You know, and like you said, you can't give a kid that amount of money as a freshman. There's no way. The only reason why I was able to give this girl a full scholarship, I mean,
she was proven.
She was at Armstrong State. They just won I don't know if they won a national championship.
They probably did.
They probably did or got darn close to it, right? And so you know, she had I think she had a WTA point or two. I mean, it was a sure thing, and it was a sure thing. You know, she brought that experience to the table, and oh gosh, I mean, it was a good deal, but not that's a pretty rare exception, you know, especially for a Midwestern school like Northeastern, you know. I mean, we weren't fully funded there either. We're not fully funded here at SMSU, but
hardly anybody is in D2 besides, you know, maybe the top 20, top 25. Outside of that, you know, some people would be amazed at just how little some programs that are successful are funded. You know, I come from the Atlantic region, and most of our schools are in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and a lot of these programs operate on, I'm going to be honest with you, 1 to 1.5 scholarships total, especially on the men's side. I mean, there's programs that I know of that operate on a fourth of a scholarship total for men's.
Oh God, that would be.
It happens. There's many of teams. There's quite a few that I know of that are like that. So, I mean, people thinking that every program is fully funded at the D2 NAIA level is just, it's insane. But I think there's a big divide of people who don't really understand that.
Right. And that's what recruiters really need to explain to their clients, you know, and it's totally frustrating because I get the recruiter is totally necessary because it's for the international kids. I mean, they obviously they get these international kids, these poor kids who want to get to the U.S. They don't, there's no way they know how, you know, unless they went through a recruiting agency of some kind. But I mean, I wish they would vent these kids a little bit better, and they're going to have to, because our scholarships are going to be, I think.
Well, I think the expectations are going to start to become a little bit more realistic as the summer goes on and some of these kids don't have a place to go. I know we talked about it a little bit before this too. You know, what are your thoughts on the fall a little bit? I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but I know recruiters are asking me almost every day, you know, is school going to happen? Are you guys going to, you know, are you guys going online? I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I know I'm a young person, but nobody that I've talked to that's below 70 years old has ever seen anything like this. So, I mean, how do recruiters expect me as a graduate assistant to know if we'll be online only for the fall, which is 4 months away, you know?
Right. Well, at least every college like can go online now that we're online. You know, we're online now, and it was, you know, a hard transition, but I believe every school can go online if they have to in the fall, which is good, you know.
Saves us some time because we're a spring sport. I mean, it could save our season potentially if the fall is canceled.
Thank goodness. Yeah, thank goodness we are our championship season's in the spring, thank goodness. And, obviously our non-championship season in the fall is kind of whatever. But I think the way things are going to go is exactly the way, kind of how Trump and Dr. Fauci or whatever is. If we pay attention to those phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and how all that stuff is, working itself out, that's exactly how the universities are going to be following that same exact plan. So I think the first thing is we're going to have kids in the classroom. If we don't have kids in the classroom in the fall, we're not going to have sports. I think it goes kids in the classroom, then we're going to be competing. I mean, don't you think? I mean,
if there's no kids, if it's online only for the fall, there's no fall. I mean, if the risk is that high, then they can't play football, a full contact sport. I mean, that's exactly. The most easy way to spread germs is through football.
Yeah. I mean, unless there's some massive amount of testing for college athletes, football players, for instance, if they can test and if they're COVID free, then they can play. If not, then they don't play. But then you also wonder if a kid has COVID, then how many of his teammates did he infect by being around, whatever. So yeah, it's probably pretty safe to say if we have class in the fall, face-to-face class, then we'll probably have sports. If we don't, then we won't. But then I've also heard with the NCAA that every sport's going to be treated differently, because obviously football is a full contact sport, basketball, those sports are going to be treated differently than your cross country. Like why would they cancel cross country? Golf, for instance. Why? Tennis, for instance. Why would you cancel tennis? Part of the rules, like tennis etiquette, is not to be 6 feet within your opponent. You know what I'm saying? I was just joking earlier when I was talking about full contact tennis. I mean, tennis etiquette. I mean, you sit far away from each other, and you never ever, get too close to your opponent unless something bad happens, and then like you have a discussion up at the net over a line call or dispute with the score or something like that. But just the way tennis is played, you never get that close to your opponent, right? So I don't know. I think but the NCAA is also, from some of the, I guess, podcasts or whatever that I've been listening to, is that the NCAA is looking at treating each sport differently as far as the protocol on, social distancing and things like that. But so I could be wrong. I mean, but if college football doesn't get going, I'm talking financially speaking, that's going to affect everybody.
Right. I know you talked about that a little bit before about the, college football is the big moneymaker, right? For, and it trickles down. If you make it, I know you elaborated a little bit about it. Just, that's the big moneymaker. It all comes down. So if the big power universities aren't making money, then the NCAA is making significantly less money. So how does any NCAA sport operate?
Right. Yeah. Unless we go to like no scholarships, like, okay, you can play college tennis, but you have no budget, I mean, no scholarship budget. You might have an operating budget, but kids are going to have to pay to play, or maybe your scholarship budget's going to be cut in half or whatever. You only have one scholarship to work with, or 1.5.
It's going to only keep getting more interesting, and it seems like we're going to have a lot more questions before we ever get any answers.
If we're all on the same playing field, is it really that bad, though?
Well, if there's no sport at all to be played, then there is no playing field. That's my biggest fear.
Well, my biggest fear, is that let's say tennis does get going, but our budgets get hacked away, right? And for instance, your scholarships, say you go from having 4 full scholarships, to maybe 2 at some school. But your Columbus State, your Lynn, your Berries, those schools, they're still going to be fully funded. They're going to have donors that are going to be giving money, and it's going to make the disparity even greater.
The rich will get richer, and the poor will get poorer.
Yeah, exactly. If your D2 program doesn't get cut, you're kind of already a poor program, right? Compared to Lynn and Berry and those other
the
schools.
national powers.
Then the disparity is going to be even greater between, because before, what made Division II so much fun to be a part of was that any school from anywhere from year to year could be good, right? Like you could be unranked one year and the next year you get 1 or 2 good recruits, or let's say you get 2 or 3 good recruits. You could be top 5 in the nation, right?
Right.
Just like that. Can't do that in Division I. That would never happen. Never happen, right? But in Division II, it can happen. Any school can be good from year to year if they get the right recruits. Yeah, I think if our budgets get cut and things happen, the worst case scenario. Well, not the worst case scenario, but more of a realistic. If your program doesn't get cut and your scholarships get reduced, that's still not going to really hurt the rich schools like you're talking about. So the disparity between your D2s it's going to happen. You're going to see a big break. You're going to see a huge drop off. Your top 20 schools are going to be totally dominating. Will always be there. They'll always be top schools, just like D1.
Yeah, I know you said a couple times if your program doesn't get cut. That kind of leads me into something I wanted to hear some insight from you about. You keep up with the board, and I'm sure you've seen the programs being cut over the last few weeks. Division I level, Division II level, NAI level. I just yesterday actually a Division II program, Sonoma State got cut. Staten Island last weekend.
Wow.
Missouri, Kansas City, D1. Are we just going to continue to see that throughout the summer, in your opinion? And, how does the bleeding stop, or does it stop?
I think it's going to, it's going to keep happening. Hopefully.
St. Edwards too. Forgot about that one. Top 25, Division II.
Yeah. And I know it's scary. It's scary. I just hope, I don't, it just seems like if they're, I don't know. It's hard to speculate, but, I always like to, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and, try to make yourself a little bit more marketable, be able to do multiple things.
An entire Division II school ceased operations this week, Urbana, which is actually in the West Virginia School Conference. It's in Ohio, but they're in the conference with all West Virginia. They didn't have tennis, but an entire school went under this week. So it's starting to become more and more real.
Well, hopefully it'll get to the president. Heck, we're looking at these stimulus bills to bail out small business, and we have our $2,500 or $1,200 stimulus check. And the other things are going to be. Perhaps maybe another phase of his stimulus bill is to bail out these colleges.
But there's so many small colleges across the United States. I was just talking to a friend of mine. So West Virginia, is a small state. We've got about 1.7 million people, and there's around 20 to 25 small colleges in our state, which is, to me, it's oversaturated, right? There's so many, and it's already a state where it's not a high population of people that attend college in comparison to other states. So these schools are almost cannibalizing each other, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
You've got a lot of them are less than, and my own school included, Salem is less than 1,000. But when you've got that many small schools spread out across a small geographic area, there's no way, in my opinion, that the government can continue to bail out small schools like that if they're they're in the red. And we're a private school, so it really doesn't affect us. in the same way because, we're just operating like a small business. But
Mm-hmm.
for state schools, when you've got so many, I don't see how the state can find it intelligent to spend so many millions of dollars saving them when they're really just killing each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They'll
The
just
food
have to
chain.
consolidate, consolidate schools a little bit, and then hopefully in another couple of years things will get better. And it happens a lot in public school districts. Like when I worked in Oklahoma and going through some issues with the state of Oklahoma. I mean, they're talking about consolidating school districts.
To
So
save money, to cut costs.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then and then in those days when that was going down the pike, I was just making myself a lot more marketable. Working on my master's and coaching other sports, not just tennis, and making myself more useful. Like, and that's kind of what we coaches need to start doing now is get yourself involved in other departments in your university, get yourself out there, work on getting your advanced degree or another degree or something. Tell them you want to teach a class or something, make yourself more useful. That would be my only advice to college coaches.
Right.
I work in the admissions department, so that's part of my job other than just coaching. And so, I mean, I'm going to go back to work on work on another master's so I can teach, so I could be in the classroom also. So that way, if something really, really bad happens,
Got
tennis,
that to fall back on.
yeah, then we're going to all have to do that. I think that would be the wise thing to do because who knows what's going to happen. Like I said, if football doesn't get kicked off, yeah, I, it's gonna screw every sport. Yeah.
Definitely. I think that's pretty good wise advice. Someone like me, I'm only 24. Kind of my dream is to coach college tennis, right, as a head coach.
Yeah.
And so to see these things happening in front of me, I'm in a 2-year graduate assistant program. So my first year was really pretty much taken away. And now, year 2 in jeopardy and seeing programs cut and seeing some coaches who are pretty down right now, seeing one of my really good friends was let go from his position as a
Mm.
head coach, and seeing all these things, it can be difficult for a young professional to stay kind of positive and holding on to that dream when the dream could really not exist for any of us in the future. So
Yeah.
definitely being versatile, I think is smart. I'm getting my master's in business administration and sports management. So I really want to work in the athletic department.
Mm.
I'm actually our play-by-play announcer at Salem basketball as well. So I try
Nice.
to have many different hats, and hopefully the more hats you wear, the more likely you are to stick around and
Right.
have value. Because I guess at the end of the day, right, you're just an employee at a business, and if you
Mm.
don't add value, then you're kind of up in the air, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you have value, they're gonna a little bit lower on that chopping block, I guess. So, I mean,
Hopefully, keeping the wolves away from the door.
yeah. I still have my teaching certificate in Oklahoma. It's still update, so I can teach high school or whatever in Oklahoma. I could even teach in Florida. I don't think I'll ever want to go there, but yeah, I mean, I'm keeping all my certifications alive, and I'm going to go back to, I'm going to work on my master's here, another one, like I said, and so I can teach. So I mean, you just have to, because sports might, I don't want to say it, but some of the smaller sports could, run its course, and it could be cut. So
Like you said, prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
yeah.
Coach, how have you really been spending your time during quarantine? I know you're in an apartment in Minnesota where you don't have probably any family there, or maybe some friends that you've met over the few months, but how are you spending your time?
Well, we still have to work with the university, so it's
Because you're in
telework.
administration too. You just mentioned that. I forgot.
So I do a little bit of that each day. So I work in admissions. Basically, admissions is you're recruiting kids to come to the school here, and then you're kind of helping them through the application process and housing and registration and things like that. And then I guess with the tennis part of things is recruiting. I have to keep track of my hours, scheduling. I mean, even this is a valuable item I'm going to write down, on my work plan. So yeah, I had a conference with another coach, talking about ideas and things. So I keep myself busy with that kind of stuff as well, so. And we have Zoom meetings all the time. Oh gosh. And so this is cool though. This is fun.
This is probably a little bit different than your work Zoom meetings though.
Yeah, I do a lot. I don't do any talking with my athletic director. We call it athletic leadership with all the coaches and stuff. And yeah, I don't do any talking. I just don't know what to say, so, and they last about 2 hours long. Yeah. So they're brutal. But they, thankfully my athletic director, I mean, he's really nice. He has not mentioned anything about budgets, scholarships, In fact, the one thing that he did tell us head coaches to do is to increase our roster size.
Oh yeah. That's the one way to keep the Wolves away from the door.
Yeah. So that way we're admitting more students to the university, increase the roster size, and it's fine. And he hasn't mentioned the fact that anything about our budgets, which is great. That's why I think, I think it's university to university, state to state.
Yeah, definitely all models are different. One piece of advice that I've been given by several coaches is as long as you keep a healthy roster size, that at least, gives you something to stand on. And,
right.
If you've got 6 or 7 kids on your team and they're all getting high scholarships, then that means the school is spending a lot and getting not much back in return. And winning isn't really looked at in that regard. When you're looking at money, they don't care. As we just mentioned, a couple programs like USC Aiken last year was, I think, top 5 in the country when they were announced they were cutting. So, talking about just keeping a healthy roster size, keeping revenue coming into the school, and at least, you're further away from being cut than maybe teams that can't keep a large roster.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have a formula of the amounts of scholarships that I give, like my 1-2 player, 80 to 90% full scholarship. My 3-4 player, they're like, I say 70%. And then my, where am I at? 3-4, 5-6, they're like at 50% scholarship,
And that's pretty realistic for a D2, you know what I mean, situation.
Yeah,
It's not like 1 through 6 full ride and then like the rest are like, 50 or 70 or whatever. It's people really don't understand that sometimes, I think.
Yeah, and that way the kids have, skin in the game. It's competitive for a lot of D2 programs. Probably not the same as a Landberry or whatever, but and very competitive for our conference. And but even from that formula that I use, that breakdown, I still try to get the kid that can put, have a little bit bigger budget. So in fact, the girl that I'm hopefully bringing in that's going to be my 2-3 player, she's like on 60%, not 70, but so I'm trying to always find the best deal, and I hope that kids understand that, like if they're a good tennis player, their UTR is around an 8. If like a girl, if they're okay with getting a 60-70% full scholarship, they have a lot more opportunity to go almost anywhere, and have a, but yeah, I don't know. That's what I do. And even with that formula that I have, I even try to go less than, I still try to find kids that can pay more.
Just as coaches, we're trying to do the same things as our ADs on a smaller level. We're trying to, you know,
Yeah.
cut costs in any ways we can and try to move funds in different places. And,
Yeah.
obviously kids with bigger budgets are going to help, obviously pay for some things and, keep the team afloat, to be honest. And it's
Yeah.
just the reality of it.
And wouldn't you rather have a kid with a little bit more of a budget that, you have he has, like I said, that skin in the game, probably has a good work ethic,
They want to be
probably
there.
very realistic, and they want to be there for the academics, not just the tennis, right? Those are the kids that you really want to coach. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I would rather go to practice and enjoy going to practice, like just enjoy it. So I be around people that are pleasant, kids that want to be coached and not act, like,
Entitled.
they're entitled. That's what I would rather. I mean, I don't know. I guess I guess I've been around enough to know that, I'd rather enjoy myself at practice and have a good time, and that I can only, that would only be able to happen if you just have to like the kids you want to be around. And those are the kids I want to recruit. And oftentimes, you can find them, it's hard, but you can find them. And that's sort of my prerogative with my recruiting, so I don't know, finding those kids with, that want full scholarships. I guess it would be nice. Going back to that girl that I recruited, that was a one, very good player. I mean, great kid, um, off the court, but like on the court,
Deserved it.
I mean, very kind of selfish-ish,
No.
Kind of player. Wasn't too much of a team player.
Me first instead of team first.
Yeah, and that was at first, and then over time, it got better. So yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what you run into. But anymore, I would rather just find the kid that has a good budget, good healthy budget. They're probably the player that you want anyway, to be around. Because those bus rides are brutal, man.
You're spending a lot of time with these kids, so you want to be around kids that you like and that like you, so
Yeah.
you can form healthy relationships.
Yeah.
It's not too fun to be in van rides with people that are hostile or standoffish and people that
Yeah.
just don't like each other. It's very, I feel in my experience as a player and as a coach, being around teams that didn't like each other normally ended up self-destructing, and it hurt us
Mhm.
on the court.
Yeah.
And in the opposite direction, guys where we were around each other all the time, helping each other do homework, hanging out on the weekends. Those are the types of teams where we fought for each other. And when we were on the court, I was fighting for you more than I was for myself. And,
Yeah.
that always equaled more wins in the long run, at least in my experience.
Yeah. You manage to win more that way. You get, I guess you overachieve, I guess they call it. You become an overachiever when your level shouldn't be there, but you somehow manage, when you want to fight for your teammate, you end up playing better. So yeah, I mean, that's every coach's dream is, to get a kid that's 50% scholarship and plays over their head and fights for their teammates.
Absolutely.
And that's what these kids that are being recruited, that's what they need to understand. I mean, and I think some of them don't. Like if when you're like I sometimes you get on these little recruiting interviews with a kid, and the first thing out of their mouth is, "How much scholarship are you going to give me?" It's like
Not a good start.
it's the worst topic. First, say, don't you want to know about the academics first?
Nope.
I spoke to a girl that said that was their first topic was, I mean, literally, right after I said, "Hello, my name is Coach Parker. I'm the head tennis coach at Southwest, Minnesota State." And then she introduced herself, and then she said, "Well, how much scholarship are you going to give me?" It's like,
Great start. Good
oh my
talk.
God. I was like, I mean, it made my skin crawl, you know. And I'm pretty cool around other people and around kids, and I always say the right thing. I mean, I don't always say the right thing. I say the professional thing to kids, you know, because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But gosh, you know, it was like a 10-minute conversation. You know, said, sorry, we can't help you. I can't really help you. You know, I can't give you a full scholarship. Sorry. Click, you know. And
Yep.
then I went to the recruiter and said, your client so and so was little Miss Rude. She was about the rudest kid ever, you know. And that's a bad reflection on that recruiter, because I'm not gonna, you know, I mean, do I want to use that recruiter? So anyway, I don't know. It's too bad.
Definitely, Coach. We've definitely had a wide range of topics here.
Yeah, we have.
It's been fun. One last thing I'll leave you on is what's really the one thing you look forward to getting back to in your tennis coaching? You know, hopefully we're back in the fall, but what's the one thing you really look forward to the most?
Practice. I love practicing.
He loves the grind.
I mean, I don't know if it's a grind. I just like being outside, teaching, coaching.
I'm with you.
You know, just being out there and doing what we do best, and you know, that's the main thing. You know, I mean, all this stay at home and scheduling and thinking of new ways of keeping yourself busy and paperwork. Oh gosh, it's awful. So,
especially for us when we're used to being on court, you know, I teach part-time as well. So I'm used to being on court teaching, you know, kids, and then going from there to practice at Salem, and, you know, always being busy, always being outside, active. So I'm going a little stir crazy. I think that's kind of what started this video series, is just to give me something to do and some people to talk tennis with.
Yeah, it's a good idea. This is a really good idea. You know, hopefully we'll get a lot out of it. It'd be really cool if we can get like 100, like more coaches together, you know, 10, 20 coaches, and bounce ideas and stuff like that.
Definitely be a blast. Something hopefully I can work towards. I know that's why I posted it in the forum. I got some feedback, but hopefully a couple videos like this, and maybe we'll get some more coaches interested, and we can do some more fun stuff like this.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Definitely. I'm down.
Appreciate you, Coach. Thanks for having me today. Really fun. I'll talk to you soon. I'm sure we'll have some more interesting stuff to talk about in the near future.
Yeah, this depends. You'll see comments. I mean,
I'm looking forward to the comments.
I'll keep my posts down. I mean, so I don't want to be too rude.
You got to be on your best behavior for the rest of this quarantine, man.
I know. Same with you.
Yep, I need it as well. Have a good day, Coach. I'll talk to you soon.
You too.
Thank you.
See ya.